questions, the Lumpo. It's from Vijay, and the question's asking Katina ceremony, how to offer robes, where to buy robes for Katina ceremony.
Oh, well, if our Katina ceremony here this year is on Sunday the 6th of November, so in a few weeks' time. And if you're in Melbourne or you're able to be in Melbourne on that day and come to the monastery, you can buy unsewn cloth from a cloth factory or cloth selling outlet somewhere. You don't have to buy ready sewn robes. You can just buy white cotton cloth. So we have the upper robe, what we call the jivara, jiwan, is made of thin cotton cloth, starts off white, so it can be, they use the term muslin, thin white muslin, but it has to be 100% cotton because we dye the cloth. And if it's nylon or man-made fibers, it doesn't accept the dye very well. So if it's a robe like this, my top robe, you need about 12 to 15 meters, assuming the breadth of the cloth is maybe 1.5 meters. You need 12 to 15 meters to sew one robe of white cotton, thin cotton, or muslin or something like that. If it's an underrobe, the one that's more like a skirt, you use thicker cloth. So it's cloth, I think they call it cotton drill. So it's like the thickness of trousers. So again, white cotton, 100% cotton, not nylon. So all you need to do is find an outlet that sells cloth and buy, if it's the underrobe, the thicker robe, the cotton drill, you need at least 5 meters. If it's 1 or 1.5 meters wide, then you need about 5 meters long. So either thicker to sew an underrobe or thinner to sew the upper main robe. If you can't afford 5 meters or 12 meters, the Buddha said, just one little square will do. We can use that for patching. So if you've just got a little square, maybe 8 inches by 4 inches, if that's all you can afford, that's fine as well. So really there's no upper or lower limit on the cloth. Whatever you feel appropriate is suitable for your means. What people tend to do is they fold this piece of white cotton cloth up nicely. Sometimes they put a little ribbon on it, but you don't have to. You fold it up nicely, you bring it on the day of the Katina, and when the Katina ceremony is held, there'll be an announcement and a verse is recited, and then you come up and you offer your cloth, and that's part of the Katina cloth offering. So people often misunderstand. They think they've got to buy ready-made robes. And of course, we'll accept ready-made robes, but what you should be aware of is that the majority of the ready-made robes people offer cannot be used because they haven't been sewn properly according to the Vinaya. The monks here, we sew our own robes, but we can use a ready-made robe if it's sewn according to the Vinaya, and only a few places, say in Thailand, there's a few shops, tailors and shops where they will sew them according to the Vinaya, the rules of the monks. There's a certain pattern, size, style that we sew that hasn't changed since the time of the Buddha. But most people go and buy the first robes they can find, so they're often the wrong color. For us, we have this color which comes from the jackfruit tree, wood that is used to dye the robes. But people will get different colored robes, different size robes, and the pattern that it's sewn by or according to is the wrong pattern. So a lot of the robes people offer for Katina or any other time, we simply can't use, and we give them away, which is a shame better to put your effort into either buying cloth that we can then sew into a robe, or if it's a ready-made robe according to the Vinaya, which you can get online. Even if you're in Melbourne, you can buy them online. But I'm not a salesperson for these companies, so it's not really for me to go and say where you should buy. You have to ask around, look around. And that's part of a lay Buddhist's practice, isn't it? Just think about what is appropriate to offer for monks or nuns. A lot of people, to be honest, they're a little bit casual about the whole thing, and they just say, "Oh, I'll go and buy this in this shop, some robe," but they're not checking to see if it's a robe that the monks can use. They just buy the first robe they come across, and so basically they're spending money on something that's useless. We can't use it, and so we give it away. And to be honest, over the years we've given away thousands of robes, because the majority of people don't seem to understand this point, even though every year I am saying it on occasions like this. So try and pick either unsewn cloth, white cotton cloth, or cloth that is being sewn into a robe according to the Vinaya, the monks' rules. Or some other donation is fine, but think about it. Don't waste your money. If you can't be sure what you're offering, or you get the money and use it for your family, your parents or something, rather than wasting it.
Sadhu Lumpo, we have a few more questions in the chat box. The next question from Van Lan. Thank you, Lumpo. May I ask, how do we schedule our meditation sessions to practice metta, breathing, vipassana? Should we have a timetable to cover them all? Please forgive me for my ignorance.
Maybe in the beginning of your meditation and when you're new to it, yes, a timetable can be quite helpful. So you might pick a period of time where you'll practice just metta meditation. And that can be as long or as short as you feel comfortable with. So it can be as short as, say, 5 minutes, or it could be longer, as long as you want, depending on how much time overall you have for your meditation. But say you're meditating for a period of time, whether it's 20 minutes or half an hour or 1 hour, you might divide a small section, it could be at the very beginning or at the very end of metta meditation. You choose what feels right for you. And then the majority of your time you might be practicing mindfulness of breathing. And then you also may time yourself or separate and establish a time when you're practicing vipassana, contemplating impermanence, the rising and passing away of thoughts, feelings, the body. In the beginning, you might need to do that. It can be helpful to give you some discipline and to give you something to really focus on. But as you progress in your practice, you may not need to divide your time quite so deliberately, and you may find that as you become more experienced in meditation, you can practice metta when it seems appropriate. So it may be at a time where you feel inspired or energized and you want to spread metta to yourself and to other people, or it may be at a time there's a specific reason. So somebody is sick or suffering and you want to spread metta to them, or there's a war going on in the world and you want to spread your thoughts to the people who are suffering. There may be specific times where you practice metta, and you do it as appropriate on a day-by-day basis. You see when it's appropriate to do it. And the same with the other practices of mindfulness of breathing, vipassana. You may have a more natural approach as you become more experienced, and if your mindfulness is not very strong, I need to do more mindfulness of breathing to bring up strong mindfulness and deal with my scattered state of mind or my sleepiness or whatever the problem is. And then there's times when it's quite natural and obvious where you need to contemplate, practice vipassana. And generally, the idea is you use a meditation object to bring up mindfulness, develop samadhi, make the mind calm, still, bright, and then you use that as a basis for contemplation, vipassana. But exactly how much time you spend on each and how you do it will depend on how experienced you are, how much you do it. If you only got a little bit of time, well, maybe you can't divide your time up very much. If you're practicing regularly every day, quite often through the day, well, you can be more generous and liberal with how much time you spend on each of those practices.
Sadhu Lumpo. Next question is from V. Ajahn, how could you please give some explanation on the luminosity of the mind during meditation? And the next question is, maybe this question first. Yeah.
Well, as we know, the Buddha said the mind in its natural state is luminous, radiant. And the effects of mental defilements, greed, anger, and delusion, is to kind of dim or darken the mind. We say they sully the mind, they're like blemishes or defilements. And how can you tell your mind is defiled? Well, it becomes darker. Of course, much of the time we're not in touch with our mind enough to know whether it's bright or dark. So you may know your mind is under the influence of defilement simply because it's just not very peaceful. You feel a certain way, you feel unpleasant, unhappy, you have painful feelings accompanying your thinking. Physically, maybe it's reflected in your body as well. And then the opposite, when you're practicing mindfulness, contemplating, letting go of greed, anger, and delusion, your mind seems to brighten. Of course, if you become skilled in your meditation and you get to the point where you can remove these 5 hindrances, you'll get to know your mind very well, and you'll know it, and you may even be aware that your mind is bright, radiant, and you'll be aware that when defilements arise and take over your mind, it loses its radiance. Most of us are vaguely aware of this, but as you become more skilled in meditation, you may become much more precisely or clearly aware of your state of mind, whether it's in a wholesome state or an unwholesome state. When it's in an unwholesome state, it will feel gloomy, darker. Your thoughts will reflect your unwholesome state of mind. So your thoughts will be more negative, very self-critical, critical of others, looking down on things, worried, agitated, afraid, obsessed with things. As you become more skilled in meditation, you'll be more aware of that. But of course, when defilements take over the mind, at that moment, you may not be fully aware, because if you were, you wouldn't let the defilements take over your mind. But maybe afterwards, you become more aware that, oh, I was caught under defilement then. And then the defilements pass and you realize, oh, I lost my radiance then. And so as you practice more and more, you become more subtly aware of the radiance, the luminosity of your mind, or the darkness of your mind. In the beginning, you're probably only aware of extreme changes. When you're really angry, or you're really caught into lust, or you're really afraid, you'll notice it. And when your mind is really peaceful, you'll notice it. But as you become more skilled in observing your mind with mindfulness and experiencing samadhi, then perhaps it's a much more subtle insight that you have into the radiance or the lack of radiance of the mind. And you also don't react so much to it. As you become more skilled or used to meditation, a little more experienced, you may notice a defilement, but you don't get upset by it. You say, this is defilement, and you do your best to abandon it quickly. in the beginning, we notice a mental defilement, and we feel, it's making my mind feel gloomy or heavy, and my mind is agitated, stressed. And then often we get stressed because we're stressed. We notice a defilement and its effect on the mind, and we react to it, and it's like a downward spiral. But as you practice more, you get less of that, and you just notice defilements. So this is defilement, this is to be abandoned, and it's a more natural process. So it's all about experience. Just keep practicing and do it a lot. The Buddha said, practice mindfulness a lot, meditate a lot, contemplate a lot. The more you do it, the more you'll know the level of your mind, whether it's in a skillful, wholesome state or it's in an unwholesome state. You'll notice that. You'll observe it, and you'll also know what you have to do to abandon the defilements. That all comes through experience in the practice.
Sadhu Lumpo, the next question is from the same person is, if one's mind was quite bright with 5 senses faded away into a boundless space, however, subtle notion of I seemed to linger on. Under this context, could Bhante please give some guidance on how to direct one's mind to pierce through ignorance and arouse true knowledge?
Mindfulness. Keep practicing the sati, and then use sati to observe the truth of things. So what is self? And that's what you have to investigate. So the first thing to look at is anicca, the characteristic of anicca. So as your mindfulness becomes stronger, you contemplate thoughts and you say, well, am I really these thoughts? And you look and you observe, thoughts arise, pass away. Feelings arise, pass away. This body is always changing. You're observing the arising and the ceasing of these 5 khandhas more and more, and you see it more and more clearly. So what arises and passes away, you can't take as a self, because you're seeing it, it's arising and passing away. It's not constant. So seeing impermanence leads on to seeing non-self. So you may have a mood. You say, I'm really unhappy now because something went wrong in my day, in my life, and I'm so miserable, or I'm this way or I'm that way. But as you practice mindfulness, you sit down and meditate, or you do some walking meditation, or you start reflecting on your experience, even if you're working or doing other things. As mindfulness comes up, you say, okay, there's this unpleasant mind state, but it's changing on me. It's intense, and then it's less intense, and then it disappears. Where's the self in that? It's gone. At this very moment, listening to my voice right now, you might be able to say, I've been angry in my life, but that anger is gone now. Unless you're angry with me, listening to me, I don't know. But if you're not angry at this moment, you can say, all the times you've been angry in your life, they've gone. Where is the person, the self in that? And they were obviously temporary mental states that arose, pass away. Same for fear, same for greed, lusts, every kind of attachment, every kind of mental defilement arises and passes away. And what shows you that is bringing up mindfulness and maintaining mindfulness, observing your mind. Just keep doing that over and over again, and you're gradually clearing away this habit of always attaching and identifying with every thought, every feeling, every emotion as self, and you see them more from a place of equanimity.
Sadhu Lumpo. Next question is from Kritika. Thank you so much, Ajahn. Could we buy color dye too?
Yes, you can buy colored dye. There's a few brands on sale in Australia. Can't remember their names now. Is it RIT? Do we use RIT? Yeah, RIT, I think, is one. Usually we get the brown and the golden brown, and the gold color and the brown we mix together, and you get a reasonable color like this. So those kind of dyes, chemical dyes, you can buy as well. Yep.
Okay, yes, I do. The next question is from Ying Chen. Venerable, my mom has a strong faith in God. She was happy in the church, but she was easy to get anger to talk to my dad. I heard a lot of complaints from my dad and my mom. I tried to remind them their good qualities and they love each other. It doesn't work very well. I also shared merits with my parents. I hope they are free from suffering. How could you please give me some advice?
Sounds like you're doing a good job already. What more could a parent ask for than a son or a daughter who wishes them well and has kindness for them and wishes that they get angry less and less in their life? I mean, that's one of the most kindest thoughts you can have for your parents, isn't it? So if it's one parent in particular who easily gets angered, number one, you have to try and tolerate that. I know it's not easy, but because they're your parent and you live with them and they've helped you, you try to tolerate it. So don't react to it all the time with your own anger, but try to consciously tolerate it, be patient with them. And the more you can do that, be tolerant, patient, have your own loving kindness for them, that will help because you won't be provoking them, making it worse. And then they're getting a reflection back from you. If you're more calm when they're angry, they're seeing that you're not feeding their anger, you're not provoking them, you're not making it worse. That will help them to calm down quicker. And just see, like you say, you meditate, you dedicate merits and you spread metta to them in your meditation. That's a good thing to do with somebody who has a lot of anger. And it will also lead on to your creativity. You'll think, what can I do to help mum if she's always losing her temper? Is there anything I can do to help her? So you may find that there are small acts of kindness you can do to her that help her feel better and calm her down. And you just see what you can do. Use your creativity, or use your mind to think how you can put metta into action in your daily life. But number one is to be patient when she's angry and not to react with your own anger and get caught up in it. So don't argue with her. Try to be aware of her anger when it's coming up, so you do less that will provoke her or make it worse. Try not to make it worse. You just do the best you can and reflect for yourself. This is karma, your mother's karma. It's not your karma. If she's getting angry, this is something she has to deal with. She's experiencing the suffering of it. And you wish her well, but you also have to separate in your mind and try not to take it too personally. If someone else gets angry, that's their suffering, that's their problem. You wish them well, but don't make it your problem. You have to be clear on that. This is their karma, not your karma. And you can stay calm and reflect on it, but you don't have to take it into your own mind and start feeling worried or sad because of their suffering. You might do that, but you have to try and let go of those thoughts.
Sadhu Lumpur, next question from Pamuja. Can admin tell us where to dana to this monastery, please?
Where to?
Dana to this monastery?
Where to give dana?
I believe so.
Well, if you're in Melbourne, you can visit us any day. The food offering is at 10 a.m. and people offer other donations, either finance or requisites at that time every day. If you're further away, then you can look on the Facebook or the website, and there's a bank account, and you can send a money donation. If it's all too difficult, if you're too far away, then you can maybe do dana somewhere else, nearer to you. Just see what works for you, what's convenient for you.
Sadhu Lumpo. The next question from Vijay. My parents are in India, and I would like to ask if there is a Telugu-speaking monk who can visit them sometime, or they can travel to Thailand and stay for a week or so. I would like my parents to get the Dhamma from a senior enlightened monk.
Yeah, it's not far from India to Thailand. It's only a few hours plane ride. So yes, you could take them to Thailand and visit some of the teachers. You can Google the temples, the monasteries in Thailand, and then make some kind of plan. You maybe even contact them. There's the monastery I used to live at, Wat Pananachat in Ubon, and then Wat Mapjan in Rayong, and there's others as well. So that is something you could do. Take your parents on a trip to Thailand. They've also got a new Ajahn Chah monastery starting north of Delhi. They were in India, is that right?
Yes, it's in India.
So north of Delhi, there's a Delhi city center. You must have to Google it, I think. I think it's called Dhammaram. Google that in India, Delhi. And then they may have the details of where the new monastery is starting, and they've got monks from our lineage going to stay there, and you can go and ask them questions and help build the monastery. I don't know where you are in India, but nowadays travel is a bit easier than before, and then we've got the internet to help as well.
Sadhu Lumpo. That's all the question in the chat. If there's any further question, please raise the digital hand, and I would invite you to unmute, or you can send in the question to the chat box. As Lumpo has said, this is the last session for until next notice. So if there's any question, raise a digital hand or send into the chat box.
They have to unmute, I think.
Sikita, if you have unmute yourself already, please feel free to ask a question.
This Zoom actually is my sister and me, Kanti and Sikita. The question is coming from me. Actually, what I wanted to ask Longpo, firstly, thank you Longpo for the guidance and all the Dhamma talks and meditation. The question is about aspiration. Going forward, looking at the world around us is not getting any better, and it will take many rebirths before we get to the other shore. So meanwhile, what would be a realistic aspiration to make? Sadhu Longpo.
Oh, well, every day make your aspiration to attain Nibbana, to end suffering for yourself, free your mind from greed, anger, and delusion, follow the Buddhist path. And if you do come back for another life, or may you make your aspiration, may you meet with the Buddhist teachings again, have the opportunity to practice the Dhamma again until you reach Nibbana, enlightenment. You just mentioned you think it will take many lifetimes to reach enlightenment. Well, who knows? I mean, who's saying that? You can't be sure. Maybe if you try really hard, maybe just one life is enough. So you have to really focus your mind on the Dhamma practice. Use your faith as the starting point and keep practicing every day. Dana, Sila, Bhavana, Noble Eightfold Path, keep cultivating it. And don't worry too much about time, whether it's going to take one lifetime or 100 lifetimes. You know, those are just ideas. You don't really know. Look more at right now, today. Look at your mind right now. What mental defilements are arising that need to be addressed, let go of? Just keep working on it. Whatever comes up in your mind, that's what you have to practice with. Keep cultivating all the different parts of the path. So the 7 factors of enlightenment, the 4 Brahma Viharas, the Eightfold Noble Path, all these, what we call the Bodhipakya Dhammas, the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. Just keep developing them every day. And whether it takes a long time or a short time, doesn't matter. Just keep going.
All right. Thank you so much, Sadhu Longpo. I get what Longpo is saying.
We wish you well. May you attain Nibbana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We'll practice harder. Put in more effort, Longpo.
Keep doing it. Yep.
Will do.
So is that the last question?
Yes, this is the last question.
So we're going to end the session now. As I said, we'll probably be back next month, sometime, not sure which day yet, but we wish you all well. You have our blessings here from Bodhivana Monastery. May you progress in your practice. May you find peace in your hearts. May you free your minds from defilements. May you all attain enlightenment.
So,